In today's dating world, it's easy to feel like the rules are constantly shifting. One moment we're told to play it cool and mysterious. The next we're being encouraged to be radically vulnerable and honest. We swipe, we text, we ghost, we overthink. And somewhere along the line, dating has started to feel more like a strategic game than a genuine connection. But the truth is, for all the trends and tactics out there, the most effective rules are the ones that bring you closer to yourself first. Because when you show up with clarity, calm, and confidence, the dating game stops feeling like a battlefield and starts becoming a journey of meaningful connection. These aren't gimmicks. These are principles that actually work. And they don't just get you noticed. They help you attract what truly lasts. When it comes to modern dating, the first and most powerful rule that actually works is to lead with clarity. It's one of those things that sounds simple, but is deeply transformative when you practice it consistently. Clarity isn't just about knowing what you want. It's about communicating it without fear, shame, or the need for constant validation. In a dating culture filled with mixed signals, hot and cold behavior, and endless "what are we?" in conversations, clarity cuts through the noise. It sets the tone for how others treat you, and it silently commands respect without needing to beg for it. When you lead with clarity, you're not waiting around for someone else to decide how they feel before you act. You don't mold yourself into whatever version you think might be most attractive to the other person. You stand in your truth. If you want something serious, you say that early, not because you're trying to pressure anyone, but because your time matters. And if someone gets scared away by your clarity, then they were never going to be the right match for the long term anyway. A lot of people confuse clarity with intensity. They think that stating what they want will scare someone off. But the truth is, what scares people off is when your words say one thing and your actions say another. When you're vague, when you're unsure, when you're trying to play it cool but secretly checking your phone 50 times to see if they've replied. That's what leads to anxiety and disappointment. Clarity doesn't mean declaring your love on the second date. It means being honest about your pace, your boundaries, and your standards. It means knowing that it's okay to like someone and still hold your ground. The other side of clarity is being able to identify when someone else isn't showing up clearly for you. When you're not clear with yourself, you make excuses for someone who's breadcrumbing you. You stay too long in a situation where your needs aren't being met, because you're afraid of losing the potential of what it could be instead of facing what it actually is. But when you're clear internally, you don't need to be convinced to walk away. You recognize the signs early, and you act from self-worth, not from fear of being alone. Clarity also means you don't have to guess your way through conversations. You can ask the hard questions, like what are you looking for right now, or how do you show up in a relationship, and not worry that doing so will make you look needy. In fact, that level of maturity is what sets you apart. It sends a signal that you're not here to play games. You're here to connect, and if the connection's not mutual, you're not afraid to move on. This mindset removes the emotional roller coaster so many people ride when they date. You're no longer dependent on the response you get because you know your value isn't tied to whether someone picks you or not. You've already chosen yourself. And when you do that, something amazing happens. People start responding to that energy. It's grounded, it's confident, and it's rare. That's the kind of presence that makes someone lean in because they can feel that you're not coming from desperation, you're coming from self-respect. So in a world where so many are pretending not to care, sending cryptic texts and waiting 3 hours to respond so they don't seem too eager, clarity is a breath of fresh air. It's what allows you to stay centered no matter who walks into or out of your life. And it's one of the few dating rules that never goes out of style. Confidence over games is one of the most misunderstood but essential shifts in modern dating. For so long, we've been fed the idea that playing hard to get, delaying replies, pretending to be disinterested, or strategically dropping compliments only after they do something worthy is the way to keep someone intrigued. The truth is, that's not power, that's fear in disguise. Real power, the kind that actually draws someone to you and keeps them there, comes from confidence, not the loud, performative kind, but the grounded, relaxed, self-possessed kind that doesn't need to manipulate to keep someone's interest. Confidence doesn't panic when there's silence between messages. It doesn't overanalyze a 3-word text or spiral when a conversation shifts tone. It assumes that if someone is interested, they'll show it. And if they don't, that's useful information, not a personal failure. When you carry that kind of inner stability, you become magnetic. You're not trying to chase their attention, and you're certainly not acting out to try and get a reaction. You're leading with calm self-belief, and that makes people want to lean in closer, not pull away. Games, on the other hand, come from insecurity. They're a way of trying to control a situation where we feel uncertain. If you have to constantly wonder what to say or do to get them to like you, you're already not in a healthy dynamic. If they're the right person, you won't need to twist yourself into knots just to hold their attention. And if they're not, no amount of clever strategies will change that. Confidence accepts this truth and moves accordingly. When you're confident, you're not trying to prove your worth. You're living it. You're not trying to become what they want. You're showing who you are and letting that be enough. You understand that attraction is about alignment, not performance. The irony is, when you let go of trying to be impressive and instead show up as your full, grounded self, you become impressive in the most authentic way possible. People feel safe around you. They feel seen, not manipulated, and they respect you more for it. Confidence also means you're willing to walk away when something doesn't feel right. That's one of the hardest but most powerful things you can do. Anyone can say they have high standards, but the real test is what you do when those standards aren't met. Do you shrink yourself to keep the peace? Do you hang on, hoping they'll change? Or do you have the strength to say, this isn't enough for me, and move forward with grace? That's what makes someone remember you, not because you begged for their attention, but because you were brave enough to honor yourself when it counted. And here's the real secret. Confidence is calming. It's not about who talks the loudest or seems the boldest in a room. It's the quiet knowing in your energy that says, I don't need you to like me to feel whole, but I'd love to connect with you if we're aligned. That energy is irresistible. It gives the other person permission to drop their own games and be real too. It shifts the entire dynamic from performance to partnership. So instead of worrying about how to win at dating, focus on how to be rooted in your own worth. Show up honestly, say what you feel, ask for what you want. And if it doesn't work out, let that be okay. Confidence trusts that the right person won't need to be chased, played, or tricked into staying. They'll choose you because of who you are, not because of how well you played the game. In a world where we're constantly connected yet increasingly disconnected, presence has become rare, and that makes it powerful. When you're truly present with someone, especially in the early stages of dating, it creates a kind of emotional intimacy that most people don't even realize they're craving. Presence doesn't mean just being physically there or nodding along during a conversation. It means actually listening, not to reply, not to impress, but to understand. It means putting the phone down, resisting the urge to plan your next sentence, and allowing yourself to be right there with the other person, fully engaged. There's a moment that happens when someone feels truly heard. You can see it in their body language. They soften. Their words start to flow more easily. They feel safer. That moment is magnetic. In a dating culture full of distractions and surface-level interactions, your ability to be present sets you apart more than anything else. It shows emotional intelligence, it shows maturity, and it communicates without needing to say it that you value the connection, not just the outcome. Presence isn't just about them, though. It also benefits you. When you're present, you can pick up on red flags more easily. You notice when someone avoids certain questions, when their tone doesn't match their words, or when they say something that doesn't sit right with you. These are the things we miss when we're too busy scripting our responses or worrying about being liked. Being present allows you to date with clarity because you're seeing the person in front of you, not the version of them you're projecting or hoping for. A lot of people confuse presence with being passive or overly agreeable. But presence doesn't mean you silence your needs or opinions. It means you bring them forward thoughtfully at the right time from a grounded place. It means that when someone says something that bothers you, you don't lash out, you respond. You stay calm, you ask questions, and that calmness shows strength. In fact, the most confident people don't feel the need to dominate a conversation. They make space, they listen deeply, and in doing so, they invite others to rise to the same level of emotional maturity. There's also an emotional generosity in being present. It says, you matter enough for me to give you my full attention. And that can be incredibly disarming in the best way. It creates space for connection to grow in a way that no amount of witty banter or well-timed compliments ever could. It's not about saying the perfect thing. It's about making the other person feel seen, safe, and accepted. When you can do that, not just dating anymore, you're creating a real bond. Being present also means being present with yourself, checking in with how you feel, noticing when you're anxious, excited, guarded, or open. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional presence. If you're not tuned into yourself, it's very hard to show up fully for someone else. But when you do both, when you stay connected to you while also being curious about them, you create a dynamic that's deeply attractive and rare. Ultimately, presence is a quiet superpower in dating. It's not flashy, it doesn't require you to change who you are, and it doesn't depend on tricks or strategies. It's simply about showing up as your full self, inviting the other person to do the same, and seeing what unfolds. That kind of energy is unforgettable. It lingers long after the conversation ends. It makes someone think about you days later, not because you were the loudest or the most charming, but because they felt something real with you. And that, more than anything, is what keeps them coming back. One of the most underrated but powerful things you can do in modern dating is to maintain a life that inspires you outside of it. It's a subtle energy shift, but it speaks volumes. When someone meets you and realizes that you're not sitting around waiting for love to complete you, that you already have a life full of passion, goals, fun, and connection, they immediately sense something different. You're not seeking a relationship from a place of lack. You're open to it from a place of abundance. This isn't just about being busy or filling up your calendar so you seem unavailable. It's about cultivating depth in your world. When you're immersed in your work, your friendships, your hobbies, or your personal growth, you become magnetic. That fullness creates a kind of emotional richness that other people want to be around. It says, I'm not here to make you my everything. I have my own everything, and I want to share it. That kind of independence is rare in dating because so many people are chasing someone else to make them feel better about themselves. And that energy, whether we realize it or not, always comes through. People can feel when you're looking to be rescued from your loneliness or your boredom. But they can also feel when your life already excites you and they get curious about it. It makes someone want to be a part of your world, not because you need them to fill a gap, but because they want to contribute to something beautiful that already exists. The irony is that the more you focus on building a fulfilling life outside of dating, the more attractive you become within dating. You stop obsessing over texts, over analyzing responses, or spiraling when someone pulls away, because your self-worth no longer hangs in the balance of whether someone likes you. It's anchored in something far more stable, your own sense of purpose and joy. It also shifts the dynamic when you're getting to know someone. Instead of evaluating every interaction based on do they like me, you're genuinely asking, do I enjoy being around them? Do they add value to my already great life? That question puts you back in your power. You're not chasing, you're choosing. You're not trying to be good enough. You're seeing if they fit. And here's the truth. Someone who's secure and emotionally available will love that about you. They'll admire the fact that you have something bigger than the relationship itself. It gives them room to breathe too. Healthy relationships don't come from two people enmeshing and losing themselves in each other. They come from two people with strong foundations who choose to intertwine their lives while still maintaining their individuality. So the best thing you can do while dating is to stop making it the center of your life. Make you the center. Pour into the things that light you up. Say yes to experiences. Spend time with people who make you feel alive. Explore new interests. Take care of your body and your mind. When you do, your energy changes. You go from waiting to be chosen to living like you've already chosen yourself. That's the shift. And when someone sees you standing in that energy, grounded, fulfilled, and lit up from within, it's not just attractive, it's irresistible. One of the most transformative dating principles today is learning how to pace the emotional connection. In a world where everything moves fast, where conversations become deep after two texts, and physical intimacy often comes before emotional security, It's easy to confuse intensity with compatibility, but intensity without intention can leave you heartbroken. That's why pacing is such a powerful rule. It teaches you to enjoy the experience of getting to know someone without rushing into emotional dependency. When you pace things, you're not being cold or distant, you're being intentional. You're letting the bond unfold naturally, giving both people the space to reveal who they are without pressure. You're not trying to jump ahead to the end of the story, you're allowing each chapter to form before flipping the page. That kind of presence not only protects your heart, it gives you clarity. When things move too fast, it's easy to become intoxicated with the potential of a person rather than the reality. But when you move at a steady pace, you start to see the truth. How they handle communication, whether they show up consistently, how they respond when things aren't exciting or easy. Slowing down also helps you stay connected to yourself in the process. It's easy to get swept away by chemistry and end up abandoning your standards, your routines, or your boundaries. But pacing forces you to check in. It gives you time to ask, how do I feel after spending time with this person? Am I being authentic, or am I shrinking myself to be liked? When you give space to reflect, you stop dating on autopilot and start making conscious choices. Pacing also builds emotional tension in a healthy way. Instead of jumping straight to vulnerability, it allows curiosity to grow. You let conversations deepen naturally over time. You share parts of yourself slowly, not as a strategy, but as a sign of self-respect. You're not putting your entire heart on the table to be judged. You're revealing it piece by piece to someone who earns that access. That kind of emotional pacing makes the connection more meaningful because it's being built on real understanding, not just projection or fantasy. The truth is, someone who's emotionally mature will appreciate that pace. They won't push for shortcuts. They'll respect your boundaries and match your consistency. And if someone gets frustrated or disappears because you're not giving them everything right away, you've saved yourself from someone who is more addicted to the chase than to building something real. Emotional pacing is like a filter. It naturally reveals who's aligned with your values and who isn't. The beauty of this approach is that it actually strengthens the relationship, not weakens it. Because when two people take the time to build something slowly, they lay a foundation of trust. They get to know each other in the in-between moments, not just the highs. And that kind of connection lasts longer than any whirlwind romance. It's rooted in reality, not fantasy. So if you're dating right now, remind yourself that there's no prize for falling fast. There's no reward for being the first to say, I love you, if it's coming from a place of fear or insecurity. There is, however, something deeply powerful in moving with intention, in letting someone miss you, in observing how they treat you over time, in choosing connection instead of clinging. That's how you protect your heart while staying open. That's how you make sure you're not just falling into a relationship, but building one that can truly last. One of the most underrated modern dating rules is the importance of having a full life outside of dating. It might sound simple, but this principle is deeply powerful. When you make your life rich, meaningful, and fulfilling on its own, you shift your energy in a way that completely changes how people perceive you, and more importantly, how you feel about yourself. You stop waiting to be chosen. You stop showing up to dates with silent desperation in your energy, and you start attracting people who are drawn to your wholeness, not just your need for connection. There is something magnetic about someone who's already full. It's not that they don't want love, it's that they don't need love to feel complete. And that's where the real power lies. Because when you approach dating from a place of fullness, you're not anxiously trying to secure someone's interest. You're simply evaluating, does this person genuinely add something beautiful to my already fulfilling life? That subtle shift in mindset protects your standards. It stops you from tolerating lukewarm treatment, breadcrumbing, or being stuck in situations where someone is only half in, because your time is already occupied with things that light you up. Friends, passions, goals, adventures. You're not sitting around waiting for a text to make you feel good. You already feel good. People can sense this. You walk into a room and carry yourself differently. You don't rush to fill every silence or overshare just to connect. You're okay with space. You're okay with someone taking time to reveal themselves. And ironically, that comfort with your own life makes people lean in more. It creates curiosity. People want to know more about the person who seems so centered, so grounded, so deeply engaged in their world. Living a full life also gives you better perspective. You don't put someone on a pedestal just because they're charming or attractive. Because you've built confidence through experiences outside of dating, you've challenged yourself, learned things, grown, achieved. You have a sense of identity that isn't tied to how someone else sees you. And that internal confidence helps you date more consciously. You ask better questions. You recognize red flags more quickly. You're not trying to be someone you're not to earn affection. You're just showing up as you, trusting that the right person will value that. This also means that when things don't work out, it doesn't destroy you. It might sting, yes, but it doesn't unravel you because your life is bigger than that one connection. You don't collapse into heartbreak the way you might if your entire world was wrapped around a relationship that didn't exist yet. You grieve, you process, but then you go back to your life. A life that still feels good, even in the absence of that person. That emotional resilience makes you even more powerful in future relationships. You know you'll be okay no matter what. And perhaps the most beautiful part of having a full life is that you stop trying to prove your worth. You know it, you live it. You become a walking example of what it looks like to love your own company, to build a life that inspires you, to show up to love as a whole person, not a half looking for completion. That kind of energy isn't just attractive, it's unforgettable. It makes people think about you long after the date ends. It leaves an impression that goes deeper than words, because they didn't just meet someone who wants love, they met someone who knows who they are. And that's the kind of person people respect, remember, and can't help but want to be close to. When you stop overthinking and start living fully in your own power, you shift the entire dynamic of your relationships. You become someone who isn't chasing approval or validation, but someone who commands respect and genuine connection effortlessly. The truth is, real attraction and meaningful bonds don't come from anxious pursuit. They come from confidence, presence, and a life lived on your own terms. When you focus on your own growth, your own happiness, and your own peace, you create space for the right people to show up and to stay. So let go of the doubts, the endless what-ifs, and the need to control every outcome. Instead, step into the energy of calm, self-assurance, and authenticity. That's when connection happens naturally, deeply, and powerfully. And that's when you hold the real power in love and life.